Greetings. My name is Chris Clayton, and I had a coaching session with a teacher I will refer to as Ms. M. Uh, this is my journal entry, the video version of it, of the coaching session. I'm going to talk about the positives and the negatives of the session with Ms. M. First of all, the interview lasted about 52 minutes. During the 52-minute interview, I covered several topics of discussion. The items include intention, the little voice in your head that you hear when you're conducting your professional duties, the one that tells you a positive story or a negative story. We talked about how to handle that voice in your head, especially when it's telling you bad stories, negative things. Um, we also talked about personal health, and we conducted the leadership inside activity that I conducted with another teacher the preceding week. I wanted to try that again. It, in my opinion, you'll see went well, just as well as it did the first time. The indirect messages that we send as teachers, and then finally, I have an open discussion and then the reflection. The teacher that I'm coaching, she's a math teacher. She works at Southern High School, and she's a third year teacher. And I said before, overall, the session went well. I believe that I achieved the objectives that I was interested in achieving. I was able to go through the agenda without any issues. And all in all, I think it went pretty good. We talked about the value system of the teacher, and we also talked about, like I said before, managing stress and the pressures of the job. So, with that being said, that is your setting, with the exception of one thing I need to mention, and that is that this this session, this particular session, was conducted via WebEx. Last week, the session was conducted here, face to face, with Mr. T. But this session was conducted via WebEx. All right, so Ms. Miller, thank you for meeting with me today. Um, this is an informal coaching session, just like all the other sessions, and I just want to talk with you, one, about some of your feelings about the school, and two, I want to talk about possibly how your students view you, and even how you view the school, and then I'll start off with just any general, just asking you in general how things are going for you for the year. My personal feelings about the coaching session, I feel that it was beneficial and intentional. The things we talked about after Ms. M had a chance to just share some of the things she wanted to talk about. What was said, what was talked about had direction, had meaning, and had purpose. And I think those things are important. Coaching is a commitment to the coach one, that as a coach, I'll do my best to respect his or her time and give honest and beneficial feedback, support, as well as do my best to offer something to them they can take back to the classroom and use, while all along providing a safe environment and helping the coach one to discover something about them as a teacher, who they are, what they believe in, and what they stand for, helping them to find that voice, that path, as well as helping them to find forward progress and what they're doing in the classroom as well as in the school, um, making them aware of leadership opportunities where they can fit in to help the school and give them a helping hand. Actually, I coached a teacher this past year for the 2018-2019 school year, and doing so, I was tasked, you know, with finding time, dedication, and the effort to do that. All three of those things are a requirement. You must find the time, you must put forth the effort, and you must dedicate yourself to that teacher, because with retention rates being as they are, um, you're given the responsibility of helping this person develop professionally as an educator, knowing that if they feel uh, helpless in the classroom and ineffective in the classroom, they'll move on to something else. Even in this coaching session, it came out that the teacher was considering leaving um, before some changes were made the last summer, and the changes helped her, so she's returning to the profession. But she was a risk at a moment in time where she was considering leaving. So as a coach, you have that responsibility of paving the way for someone to be successful and to remain in this profession where uh, there's a high retention rate. So I had a small reward working with a colleague that needed serious guidance, not Mrs. M. I'm not referring to Mrs. M. The person I coached was not Mrs. M. But the person I coached needed serious guidance. And you leave sometimes wondering if you did enough, and you leave sometimes knowing that you did all you could do. So the coaching experience, feels natural, and it should, since coaches should coach with a purpose. They should coach with the idea that when they go into it, they're going to help another teacher. When you think of an instructional coach, you think of support and the potential for good things to happen in the classroom. Fast changes or gradual changes, something's going to happen because that person is going to help you. And that when things happen in the classroom, good things happen in the classroom, good things happen for your students. And it's a little different than being coached by an administrator. An administrator may say, oh, this is an informal meeting, but when an administrator joins any meeting, they bring a formal environment with them. It's hard to separate unless you have a personal relationship with the administrator, unless you know them other than being an administrator. If it's not the culture or the climate of the school to that everybody's on a Baldrige system or a community system or a shared leadership system, once an administrator acts as an administrator, then you just can't later on say, oh, I'm not an administrator anymore. So when you have a coach, you can have that same insight, that same feedback, but you as a teacher, as a coach principal, as a coach assistant principal, central office personnel, whoever's coaching you, if you're working with a coach, you at least go into it with the mindset that this person is someone who, is here to help me without, quote unquote, ulterior motives even though that still may be the case. But the point is, coaches are like the sunshine that warms you in sometimes a cold place, meaning the daily responsibilities of working in education, because education is tough. It's a tough field sometimes, no matter where you teach. So, one other thing about the session that I think was pretty good for me was that patience helps out, and I was very patient with Mrs. M, and I allowed her to go in different directions, and I think that benefited her in the long run because you know I always could bring it back, but when she's getting something out because there's something she wanted to talk about, she becomes more interested, invested in the conversation. So it's helpful to be patient. Um, Also, it's helpful to be focused on what the coach wanted saying. It's very important to understand what they're saying and listen to what they're saying so that when you respond, uh, the chances of you saying something that's going to be beneficial for the coach one increases. You want to be able to give a helpful answer, and to do that, you have to be in tune to what the person is saying. So that's just to say coaching is an art, and coaches should perfect their coaching skills so that each engaging moment with the coach one is an opportunity to sharpen the skills of the coach one, and helping the coach one indirectly and directly helps students in the classroom, those that the coach one engage in the classroom. To make a school better, we have to change those behaviors that are hurting our image. We have to change those behaviors that are hurting our image. So, are there any behaviors about the school or practices that you see about the school that are impacting, that we're doing that are ineffective and impacting how much progress we're making towards the goal of improving our academics and improving our reputation in the community? Are there any behaviors or practices that you see that are ineffective and should be changed or modified?
I would say something that they are trying to change, but our suspensions are a lot, and then like we have a lot of them, but then they try to kind of correct that, but I don't know that it was necessarily the best correction for it. But a lot of our kids do end up being late for class or something, and then they end up getting suspended for it, which is kind of counterintuitive in my opinion, because we're wanting them to be in class, yet we're sending them home for for not being in class.
Okay, so
And
I'm,
that's for a lot of suspension.
okay, so I'm hearing you saying one of the behaviors or practices that you see about the school that are proven to be ineffective is how we handle suspensions, and we need to come up possibly with a better um, process for handling the suspensions. As I look back over the evaluation process, some things were done well, some things were done poorly. For example, I totally missed the opportunity to emphasize that as teachers, we teach through our value system, and who we are as individuals readily comes out in our professional practices. Our peers notice who we are and what we value. The students notice who we are and what we value. So it's really important for Mrs. M to understand that a lot of what she's doing in front of the classroom is impacted by the state, by the national standards, by the local standards, but it's also impacted a great deal by who she is as an individual. I think it was a plus that I use a free structured format, meaning I wasn't so rigid that if Miss M took me off the agenda, I was very adamant about redirecting her to what was on the paper. She had just as much say so in the direction of where the coaching session went, as well as I did. I did once I felt that whichever direction she took us was irrelevant from a standpoint of rambling. I redirected us back to a structured format. So I think, it's okay to go in with some points you want to discuss with the coach one, and then let those conversations flow. But once they become stagnant and unbeneficial, I think that a coach should have something to fall back on to keep the momentum of the conversation of the session going. But I believe the flexibility was important, and I think that all coaches should coach with some level of flexibility when handling the people, because people have needs. Sometimes they're fragile, and sometimes they're hardened over. And it's through flexibility, caring, sincere interest in the person you're coaching that a trusting relationship will form that will allow you to overcome the barriers between you, that keep you from giving your coached one good advice. So, and then finally, it's always good to reflect at the end. The reflection session, as I said before, went well. We were able to tease out the important pieces of the conversation. And maybe we didn't get everything, but we got some things that Miss M can look at and take back with her and implement for next year. So we took the time to pull out the important snippets of the conversation of the session, and that is actually what we were trying to do from the start. Pull out important learning opportunities and bring them to the surface so that we can act on them.
Okay. I'll exercise every day, and sometimes I'll exercise like once or twice a week.
Oh, okay. What's your regular routine? If you had to go with once a week or every day, what would you lean more towards?
I would say probably more of the it's a week thing, just because I end up being really busy during the summer, but a lot of times during the year.
So my point is, with those things, you need to find that time to do something to relieve some of that stress. You can't, or not stress, but those pressures. You can't stay under pressure with a lid on it the entire time, because it's simmering, it's boiling, it's starting to, whistle. The little pot, the kettle's whistling. So you have to find a consistent way to relieve some of that. Well, in conclusion, coaching is a learning process for the coach and the coach one. Coaching sessions are exchange of knowledge, information, ideas, and trust. Coaches must be empathetic when working with teachers that they are coaching. And coaching is a necessity to preserve the teaching workforce, especially in Title I schools serving high-risk students. The reason being the high turnover rates in challenging schools ultimately leaves students without teachers and with less opportunity to be successful, not obtaining the training and education they need to be competitive, that they need to be contributors to society. The need to relax for new teachers, any teacher, is imperative. So taking that time for self, going to the beach, roller skating, as I stated once before, fishing for me, or painting, or just planting or gardening. I like to plant leaves myself. The need to relax is important for teachers. Although experienced teachers may have mastered the art of taking time for themselves to maintain mental stability, it is still just as important for them as it is for the novice teacher to take that time to get away. My first year teaching, there was a teacher I knew who retired 2 years later, so that lets you know where she was on the pay scale. She took a day off every month. She called it a mental health day. She took it off every month. Right, wrong, or indifferent, it just goes to show that experienced teachers understand that health is just as important as a job, because if you experience burnout, you're going to leave the job anyway. So you have to take care of yourself mentally. Another thing that I would like to bring out is the communication between the coach and the coach one. There has to be an established relationship that moves towards a trusting relationship. You have to start somewhere. So the fact that you are together professionally establishes that there is a relationship, but the goal is to move that relationship to a trusting relationship so you can have more nurturing, deep conversations, open conversations, authentic conversations about what is and what has to be done. Through trust and unified efforts, the coach and the coach one can improve teaching and learning. Through that same relationship, through trust, communication, and effort, teachers can improve school climate, school culture. And through the effort, the trusting relationships, and the open discussions, we can find, some of the answers to the questions we have about how to effectively educate students. Because one thing for sure, a teacher, new or experienced, when they walk into the classroom, they are dealing with continuous change. As Miss M said before, in the coaching session, every child is unique. Every child is different. Every teacher is unique. Every teacher is different. So with so much diversity, there's going to be change and challenge. And because you have that change and because you have that challenge, you have to have a system in place that supports the network. And hopefully I was a support for Ms. M. Hopefully during the coaching session we talked about some things that provided support, provided her a network that she knows is reliable for her. And in time, we'll find out. We'll find out if what we're doing, what we discuss, will eventually impact students. When you walk in, you'll say something to yourself, my intention for the day is just to remain calm all day. So if things start, and I'm just giving you the worst case scenario just so I could go with this intention. If if things start going haywire, you could just say, you could fall back on that intention for the day that you said you were going to start when, before you even walked in the classroom. So things can be going wild, and you just go back to your intention. My intention is to stay calm. And so you focus on that, staying calm before you do the rest of the stuff. Right? Yeah. So let's try that, put that into practice next year at some point. Starting your day off with an intention, just a goal for that particular day that you've reflected over your past year, and you say, you know what, if I could just do this one thing, it will make my job, my responsibility, what I do, a heck of a lot easier. So let's focus on one or two things to get us started that we'll do. Focus on that day before we go in, and then no matter what's going on, we stick with that intention, right?
Yeah.
Now I actually have done this myself, and I will tell you, it's a very good thing. It's a very good thing. Even though you may feel that what's going on around you is collapsing, right? Meaning you may feel guilty that you're doing it. I will have a goal. I may have a goal. Let's say my goal is to stay relaxed. And no matter what's going on in the classroom, I stay relaxed, right? So just those, having those intentions, whatever you feel it is that you yourself need to do. So, and aside from that, going back to those classes where the kids are not up to par, and you're trying to bring them up to par. What are some of the things that you're doing that builds your capacity to help kids that are up to par? In other words, you mentioned earlier that some of those things you weren't exposed to in your educational program because of the level that you were taking. What are some of the things that you're doing to sort of go back and backfill where your education program didn't prepare you?
You mean like in the class, or like what do you mean?
Well, as a teacher,
what do I personally do?
Yeah, what are you doing? Yeah, what are you personally doing to go and backfill what your educational program didn't prepare you for, so you could better serve your children? Is there anything special that you do to sort of, day by day, week by week, improve that part of your repertoire, your teaching repertoire, so that you could better serve those kids that come to you behind?
If I'm understanding your question, then what I normally do is I'm a big activities person. So I'm always trying to find and or make activities to help them build on what they may have been lacking. I've made fractions activities and multiplication activities and things like that, and I like to make activities, if that's what you're asking. I like to Pinterest things and make activities.
Okay. So how about this? Are you subscribed to any educational journals?
I am not.
They like to send out tips. How to teach an AP child, how to teach a lower math skill child, how to teach the average child, how to differentiate the classroom, what is the latest thing, you get the picture. So,
yeah.
Now I will tell you to use a junk email for this, because You can't trust them jokers. They give you email out to everybody. But perhaps, perhaps you can sign up for a journal and let them send you stuff. They'll send it straight to your door of how you can handle. I mean, you put in your interest, and they'll send these kind of things to you. The other thing is, we have to be a data-driven society, right? We have to be a data-driven society or teaching organization, and so because Durham offers access to stuff like ERIC and I think that was EBSCO. I can't really pronounce it, but we should take our own time and just put in some key words, how to help these kids, or go to the internet, how to help these particular children, or how do you teach this, how do you build capacity for that, and do a little research on our own. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Have you ever done anything like that?
Like
just go.
Just like research.
Yeah.
Teaching stuff, like.
Yeah.
Teaching, of course.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Those are good things. So, all right. So, with that being said, I have another question for you.
Okay, I'm listening.
What are some of the before I ask you this, what do you think some of the challenges are that we're facing that's preventing us from, as an organization, that's preventing us from meeting the needs of our children?
What do you mean?
Is there anything that you feel that we're doing that, before I ask you, that was ineffective, but is there anything that we're doing that really just keeps us from being effective for our children, from assisting our children? Is there anything that, and if you want to make it even closer to home, is there anything that you're doing that you feel keeps you from being beneficial or effective in the classroom? And I'll give you an example. For example, for me, one thing that impacts my ability to maximize my teaching, I know that I need to have kids in a position where they can monitor themselves without coming to me, right? So one thing that I should do that I have not been doing, that I am making an intention for me, is to make sure that on a weekly basis I update those self-monitoring charts that I have hanging in my room. And the reason I need to do that, kids, when they have information about themselves, they're going to respond one or two ways. They're not going to care, or they're going to care, right? So that is one of the things that I'm doing, because I'm not doing it, which is doing something. Not doing is doing something. I'm not being as effective as I can be because I'm not filling out those charts. And some people may say, well, they could go on that website, whatever it is that they go on, Power School. Yeah, they could go on, I forgot it for a minute, and I look at it every day. They can go on Power School. It's their responsibility. But, if the practice is proven to be an effective practice, even though we're within 1,000 things that we're doing, 1,001 may not break the camel's back, may not be the straw that puts him down, put him or her down. But that's something that I need to do. Even if I try to find a streamlined way or method of practice of doing it. So another thing that I can do to be more effective is give kids even more feedback on their work, right? You know, with everything that's going on, we tend to grade and put a little smiley face on there and say, good job. But that does not help a child to go back when they're studying and match up what they did wrong to what they need to change, right? So
Yeah.
so that's another thing I could do to be more effective. So those are two examples of things that I can do to be more effective. So is there anything that you're doing that you feel would make you more effective or keeps you from being more effective?
Yeah. I would say, I mean, of course, there's obviously things I would like to work on. For me as well, I also do a really bad job of updating their, like, the chart where we put up, you know,
Right.
the
monitor.
standards and be like, hey, you did good on this standard, you know, whatever it is that
Right.
however you go about
The progress monitoring. Yes.
Yeah, I'm not so great at this. I also am not the best at giving out progress reports as much as I would like.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I know we have, like, set standards. We have to give one out, like, in the middle of the semester. But I think that I mean, yes, it would be nice if the kids looked at Power School, but I know that when I was a kid, I didn't always look at my grades. So, you know, it's nice to just kind of have it handed to you. And then that also allows them to know what they're missing and all of that, you know, so then they can be more on top of their own work. And then it's not as much of a, like, they can't be like, oh, I didn't know that this was a thing, you know. Also just giving their work back to them a little more quickly. I don't collect a lot of their work, but the work that I do collect sometimes takes me a little longer than I would like to give back to them. Which, you know, isn't like the worst thing in the world, but I do write a lot of feedback on their tests and quizzes. That is something I do feel like I'm pretty good at. But if they don't see it for a while, then they kind of forget anyway.
Right.
And, you know, then all of the writing that I put on the tests and quizzes and homeworks and everything is not pointless, but it's not as effective as it would have been had I given it back a little faster.
Okay, so we have about 10 minutes left in our session, and I want to sort of change gears. So we've talked about practices in the school, in the classroom. What are we doing? What can we do to improve what's going on with the kids? So I want to sort of talk with you now about possibly what indirect messages you are sending to your children. Okay? What indirect messages you are sending to your children. So I'm going to ask you a few questions. You know, just give me an answer, and then I am going to attempt to possibly put myself in a child's place and tell you possibly, and right or wrong, what a kid may be seeing. Okay? So, number one. So in reviewing your last, you know, a typical week at school, tell me what you spend most of your time doing. Go through the day and just tell me what you did.
You mean like in the classroom?
Yep.
So, like in class, we come in, right?
Well, just in general, you know, just tell me what you did during the week. But yeah, you can focus on the classroom if that's what you want to do.
I mean, I spend most of my time, like, talking to the kids and having them explain things to each other, which is something that I got really into this past year. That turned out very, very good for me, I guess. Because if you can explain it, then you understand it.
So, at this time, what about the action? For me, the action step is to continue to sharpen my sword with regards to my coaching abilities. Taking on new things, new projects, new challenges. The more you practice something, the better you understand it. The hours that I'll need to improve my coaching skills, I have to get to working through those hours. With regards to Mrs. M, frequent follow-ups with her to discuss what it is we talked about today, to set goals now that we've talked about possible areas that we can focus on, or intent statements, and then build the capacity to carry those things out, to endure those things, to prepare for those things, to plan for those things, to implement those things that we feel we need to do to better serve children. Then again, another action step with regards to this coaching scenario is to have a follow-up within the next 2 weeks. Coincidentally, this coincides with the next scheduled coaching session that has to be evaluated. So for right now, Ms. M and myself, we will look at what needs to be done and be prepared to discuss those things the next time we meet. That is our action step. Again, 1, I as a coach will look for more ways to help her. Ms. M as the coach 1 will devise some things that she could work on that we discussed today, and we'll both work to make sure those things get implemented in the classroom. Can you share with me what caused you to go out of your way?
Well, I mean, I care for my kids, and I think that they know that and are not afraid to ask if I will help them with something. But I don't. That could be wrong. Technically, I don't know.
What is the thing you did that was out the way?
Well, I'm telling you.
Oh. Okay.
Like I'll stay after to help kids for tutoring or something like that. Or, for example, like I stayed after and helped tutor kids, and then I had a kid that had to be out of I don't remember what practice it was, but a sports practice. So they were like, "Hey, are you gonna still be there after practice?" And I was like, "Well, you've missed some school recently. I know you need this tutoring, so sure." So I stayed for tutoring at my regular time, and then I stayed longer and just did stuff in my classroom until that kid could come.
Okay, so, good. In the past week, or can you think of a week in the past week, thinking about the last few days of school, was there any time you got upset, angry, or irritated?